Welcome to Midnight Clues.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray, we pull apart the stories the world can't stop whispering about.
You're someone who wants to get to grips with fascinating topics quickly and thoroughly, right?
Definitely.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing today as we plunge into the deeply unsettling mystery of Maura Murray's disappearance, February 9th, 2004.
Yeah, a young woman just vanishes, and honestly, it leaves behind this puzzle that still confounds us, 2 decades later?
Exactly. And this isn't, a simple whodunit.
No, not at all. We've got a fair bit of information here, plus some summarized reports, and they paint a picture that's, incredibly detailed, but still frustratingly unclear in parts.
Right. So our goal here is to sort of navigate through these layers, really get to the heart of the crucial pieces for you, the listener.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's paint a picture of Maura. She's 21, a nursing student at UMass Amherst. Seems like she had a bright future ahead.
Yeah, seemed that way. But her background, it had some maybe early challenges. Her parents divorced when she was 6.
Though she stayed close with her dad, Fred. Right.
Very close, yeah. And she was quite the athlete in high school. Even did a short stint at West Point before she transferred to UMass.
And she had a boyfriend, Billy Roosh. He was an Army lieutenant stationed way out in Oklahoma.
And even just looking at these initial details, you start to see these subtle little hints, don't you?
How so?
Well, the sources we looked at suggest that in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, people close to her noticed she seemed like she wanted a break. Needed some distance.
Just little comments, maybe?
Yeah, perhaps just fleeting things, but looking back, they feel more significant now, obviously.
They really do. Okay, so then, just a few days before she vanished, it's February 5th.
Yeah.
Something happens that seems to have really affected her quite deeply.
The phone call.
Right. Maura's working her campus security job, gets a call from her sister, Kathleen.
And Kathleen had just gotten out of rehab that night, mentioned she'd had a fight with her fiancé.
But Kathleen didn't think it was a huge deal. Yet just 3 hours later, Maura's found at her desk, reportedly crying.
And when her supervisor asked what was wrong, she could only manage to say, "My sister."
Yeah. It was a reaction that apparently even surprised Kathleen later on. What do you make of that intensity?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? The strength of her reaction. It kind of hints at maybe a deeper emotional thing going on.
Like maybe she was particularly sensitive to her sister's issues.
Possibly. Or maybe that news just, triggered something else for Maura personally. It really makes you wonder about her state of mind in those days leading up to the 9th.
It certainly does. Okay, fast forward 2 days. Saturday, February 7th. Her dad, Fred, visits Amherst.
Right. He was there to help her look for a new car because her old Saturn was pretty unreliable.
So they spend the day car shopping, have dinner. Fred ends up offering Maura his newer Toyota Corolla for the evening.
She drives him back to his motel, heads back to campus, goes to a party.
And here's a detail that, to me, seems particularly strange. She mentioned wanting to return the Corolla to her dad that same night.
Even though it was late, she'd been drinking and he wasn't expecting it back.
Yeah. What could explain that urgency?
It does seem quite unusual, yeah. It could suggest, a certain restlessness. Maybe an impulsive decision driven by something we just don't know about.
Or maybe she already had plans for the next day. Something that meant she couldn't have his car.
That's possible, too. And then, of course, the unexpected happens.
Right. Around 2:30 a.m., instead of going back to her dorm, she takes her dad's Corolla and crashes it.
A single vehicle accident in Hadley, hits a guardrail, causes pretty substantial damage, like $10,000 worth.
Wow. Police came, but thankfully no charges were filed. She got a ride back to her dad's motel.
And Fred reported she was upset about the crash, obviously, but otherwise seemed okay.
So within just a couple of days, we have these two pretty emotionally charged events. How might these have played into what happened next?
Well, you can see how those incidents coming so close together could create a significant amount of stress for anyone, right? The emotional upset about her sister, then the shock and maybe guilt about the car accident. It could certainly make someone feel overwhelmed, maybe want to step back, rethink things.
Absolutely. So, Sunday, February 8th rolls around. Fred finds out his insurance will cover the repairs to the Corolla.
Good news for him, at least. He rents a car, drives Maura back to her dorm, then heads off for a work thing in Connecticut.
That evening, he calls her.
Yeah.
Reminds her, hey, you need to get those accident report forms.
And she agrees, says she'll call him the next night to talk it all through.
Of course, that next night.
Yeah.
That's when she disappears. So you can really see the stage being set for something, well, something unusual.
Which brings us to Monday, February 9th, the day everything changes.
Shortly after midnight, maybe 1 a.m., she's on her computer using MapQuest.
Looking for directions, and the searches are for the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont.
Notice both are destinations north of Amherst, which lines up with the direction she eventually traveled.
Definitely. What do you make of her researching these places so early in the morning?
It strongly suggests she was already planning to head north, doesn't it?
It seems like it. And what's also really striking is that there's no documented interaction with her roommates or friends that morning.
It's also like she'd already started to, pull away, isolate herself.
Yeah. Then, before 1:00 p.m., she makes a couple of key phone calls.
First one is to Dominic and Linda Salomon. They own a rental condo up in Bartlett, New Hampshire. Seasons at Attitash Resort.
Right. Her family had vacation nearby before, apparently, but not at the specific condo.
And what stands out about this call?
Well, the Salomons' recollection, or maybe the lack of it, is quite telling. They couldn't specifically remember talking to Maura.
But Linda Salomon was pretty sure a last-minute booking like that wouldn't have worked.
Exactly, because of how they handled keys, mailing them out. But she did mention she might have suggested alternative places to stay in the area.
That detail about possible alternatives.
Yeah,
That could be a significant thread for people to think about.
it could be. Then, around 1:40 p.m., Maura sends out two very different emails.
Okay, what were they?
One was to her boyfriend, Billy. It said, "I love you, more stud. I got your messages, but honestly, I didn't feel like talking to much of anyone. I promised to call today, though. Love you, Maura."
Affectionate, but also kind of distancing herself, explaining why she hadn't talked to him.
Precisely. And the other email, totally different. It went to her nursing professors and her supervisor.
What did that one say?
Claims she'd be away for a few days because of a death in the family.
Which her family later confirmed just wasn't true.
Right. A complete fabrication. So these two messages, they paint a really complicated picture, don't they?
They really do. One side showing affection but distance, the other side is just outright deception.
Yeah, suggesting she felt she needed an excuse for being gone without saying what she was really up to. Her friend LZ Dunk actually suggested Maura probably just wanted to get away, have some time to think.
That makes sense. Like she was deliberately creating a false trail.
It seems that way. Then her afternoon phone activity gives us a few more clues. Around 2:05 p.m., she makes a 5-minute call to 1-800-GO-TO-GO.
What's that?
It was a hotel booking info service specifically for Stowe, Vermont.
Vermont again. But here's an interesting little technical snag.
Yeah, the Go-To-Go system apparently wasn't actually available for booking then. She could only listen to a recording.
So another sign she's interested in that area, but maybe couldn't lock down plans right then.
Exactly. We see her looking north again, specifically Vermont this time. But the fact she couldn't actually book anything might have, thrown a wrench in the works or forced a change of plans.
That's another piece to consider, yeah. Was Stowe the main goal or just one idea she was kicking around?
We don't know. And just a few minutes later, around 2:08 p.m., she leaves that brief voicemail for Billy.
I love you, I miss you, I want to talk. Much more emotional, more direct than the email, right?
Definitely. That voicemail has some real emotional weight. It maybe highlights an internal conflict, like wanting to be alone, sort things out, but also wanting that connection with him.
Makes you wonder what she needed to talk about.
It really does. Okay, so let's think about what she packed.
Right, what did she take?
Clothing, toiletries, textbooks, her phone charger, birth control pills. Pretty standard stuff for maybe a few days away.
But, and this is a big but, when campus police later searched her dorm room,
They found most of her stuff packed up, in boxes. Even the art was off the walls.
that sounds like more than just a short getaway. What's the significance of packing up that much?
Well, that detail about her room is really crucial, I think. It strongly suggests this wasn't some spontaneous, I need a day off kind of thing.
It points to a more deliberate plan, right? Even if we don't know the final destination or the exact plan.
Exactly. It wasn't just needing a break. It looked like preparation for something bigger, more permanent maybe.
Maybe. Okay, so she leaves the UMass Amherst campus around 3:30 p.m. in her black Saturn.
10 minutes later, roughly 3:40 p.m., she stalks at an ATM, withdraws $280 cash.
And the surveillance footage.
Shows her alone, casually dressed, looks calm, no obvious distress.
Then, around 3:50 p.m., she goes to a liquor store.
Buys about $40 worth of alcohol, Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of Franzia wine.
Again, surveillance shows her alone. Which brings up a key question.
Who is all that alcohol for?
Right. Was it just for her? Or was she planning to meet up with someone? The types, the quantity. It seems like a lot for one person, potentially.
That's a really important point to think about. Baileys and Kahlua, they're often used in mixed drinks, right? Which might suggest sharing. It definitely adds another layer to the mystery of her intentions.
For sure. Then, 4:37 p.m., she checks her voicemail. That's the last recorded activity on her cell phone.
We also know sometime that day she picked up those blank accident report forms from the RMV, presumably for the crash with her dad's car.
So, picture this. She's heading north towards New Hampshire in her old Saturn, not in great shape. Roads are snowy, probably slippery.
But interestingly, they found snow chains in the trunk, so she had some foresight about the conditions.
True. But her gas tank was nearly empty. And she seems to be relying on printed MapQuest directions in an area she doesn't know well. Sounds risky.
The car's condition, the weather. It definitely paints a picture of a potentially hazardous trip. The snow chains show she thought about it, but the low fuel and printouts maybe points to a lack of thorough planning, or maybe just a sense of urgency overriding practicality.
And sometime after 7:00 p.m., the inevitable, maybe. Another crash.
Route 112, Woodsville, New Hampshire. Rural road, winding near a weathered barn, sharp bend.
Conditions would have been icy, dark, no CCTV around there.
A local resident, Faith Westman, hears a loud thump around 7:27 p.m., looks out, sees Maura's Saturn stuck in a snowbank.
She calls 911 right away, but her initial report is confusing. She said she saw a man smoking in the car.
Which doesn't fit, right? Maura didn't smoke. Later, her husband Tim thought he saw a woman inside, maybe using a cell phone.
Those conflicting first reports are immediately confusing, aren't they?
They really are. One of the early points of confusion. Makes you wonder what exactly they saw in that stressful moment. Was someone else there? Was it just a mistake? Tim seeing a cell phone, though, could fit with Maura trying to call for help.
Meanwhile, across the street, another couple, the Merritts, see the car, hazards flashing, someone walking around it.
Then comes a really crucial witness, Butch Atwood, the school bus driver. He stops.
What did he report?
Engine wasn't running, but hazards were on. Maura told him she was cold, shivering.
He offered help, right? Even suggested she wait at his house nearby.
Yeah, but she turned him down, said she had already called AAA.
Which we later find out wasn't true.
Right. He told her to turn on her headlights for visibility. Noted she was standing by the driver's side, maybe 15-20 feet away.
Atwood even wondered if maybe his appearance, he was a big guy, might have intimidated her.
It's possible. Her refusing help, the false AAA claim, keeping her distance, it all suggests she was maybe apprehensive or just really determined to handle it herself, for reasons we still don't know.
So Atwood drives on, but Faith Westman, back at her house, sees the car's interior lights flicker on and off, and maybe some activity near the trunk.
Atwood felt uneasy too, apparently, so he called 911 himself when he got home.
A police sergeant arrives pretty quickly, within about 10 minutes. But Maura's gone.
Just vanished. And interestingly, there's another conflicting report from a local resident who claims they saw a police SUV in front of Maura's car around 7:37 p.m.
Which doesn't match the official arrival time of 7:46 p.m. Those small time discrepancies, sometimes they matter, don't they?
Absolutely. Even tiny differences in witness timelines can become huge points in an investigation. Raises questions about what exactly happened in those crucial minutes between the crash sightings and the police arriving.
So Officer Smith gets there. What does he find?
Cars locked, windshield cracked, airbags deployed, no clear footprints on the road itself, only some indistinct ones right around the car in the snow.
And inside and outside the car, red stains. Like wine.
Yeah, consistent with wine. There was an empty beer bottle, a broken box of Franzio wine, and a Coke bottle that had some red alcohol-smelling liquid in it.
But some of the other alcohol she bought earlier was missing.
Correct. Inside the car, he also found her AAA card, the blank accident forms, gloves, makeup, some jewelry, those MapQuest directions to Burlington.
Her stuffed animal, and a book about mountain climbing. What's that collection tell you?
It gives a sort of fragmented picture, doesn't it? The forms suggest she was thinking about practical stuff, the personal items. They're just her things, but it's what's missing that really speaks volumes.
Exactly. Conspicuously absent. Driver's license, debit credit cards, cell phone, wallet.
And her family couldn't reach her phone after that? Suggests it was off or battery dead or broken or somewhere with no service.
And despite it being February in New Hampshire, her winter coat and a blanket were left behind in the back seat. That's really unsettling, isn't it?
It is. Leaving without ID, cards, phone, that's highly unusual if she just walked away. It really suggests either she chose to leave them or they were taken.
And leaving the coat and blanket on a cold night. It's perplexing. Raises serious worries if she was out in the elements.
Definitely. So Officer Smith interviews the Westmans, Atwood. They do an initial search of the area, find nothing.
The next day, February 10th, they bring in a sniffer dog.
Right. The dog tracks Maura's scent about 100 yards east of the car, and then the scent just stops abruptly.
Which led investigators to think.
That she likely got into another vehicle right at that spot. That sudden end to the scent trail is a really key piece of info to keep in mind.
Absolutely. It strongly supports the idea she didn't just wander off into the woods but got a ride or was taken.
Exactly. Then 8 days later, Billy Roche, the boyfriend, gets this really strange voicemail. His phone had been off.
What did he hear?
He described hearing breathing, crying, maybe a whimper. He was convinced it was Maura.
And the call came from an AT&T calling card. Maura's sister Sharon had bought her a couple of those.
Right, but here's the truly bizarre part. The call was somehow traced back to the American Red Cross.
Which the Murray family found totally illogical, improbable, and the police apparently didn't pursue that lead much further. What do you make of that voicemail?
It's a total enigma. If it was Maura, why a Red Cross phone? Why not her own? Or a more direct line? The lack of follow-up, as the family notes, feels like a mischance, maybe.
Yeah, seems like it. Okay, then about a month later, another young woman, Breon Maitland, disappears. This is in Vermont, about 66 miles away from Woodsville.
And the similarities young women abandoned cars naturally led to some speculation. Could they be connected?
But police eventually dismissed a link, even ruled out serial killer Israel Keys, who is active around there, apparently due to an alibi.
It's natural to look for patterns in these tragedies, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
But law enforcement often has info we don't, so their dismissal probably came from something specific they found or didn't find.
Makes sense. Then in April 2004, a local contractor, Rick Forcier, comes forward.
With a delayed sighting report.
Yeah, says on the night Maura vanished, he saw a woman who looked like her running eastbound on Route 112, about 4 to 5 miles east of the crash site.
But he didn't report it right away. Said he was confused about the dates.
Right. His delayed report led to a bigger search in May, but nothing new turned up. His delay.
That's definitely raised questions for people following the case.
Yeah, why wait so long to report something potentially crucial? The fact the search found nothing just adds to the questions around his story.
Definitely. Then, late 2004, Fred Murray gets given this rusty, stained knife.
By a man whose brother lived near the crash site. And the brother had supposedly been acting suspiciously after Maura disappeared.
Yeah, the guy giving the knife apparently believed his brother used it in Maura's murder. Said the brother even scrapped his Volvo car afterwards.
The man's own family later said he made the whole thing up, hoping for reward money.
Exactly. It just highlights how incredibly difficult it is to sort credible info from, well, noise in these kinds of investigations.
For sure. Missing persons cases just seem to attract unreliable stuff sometimes.
Sadly, yes. Okay, November 2005. Someone posts on an online forum.
About seeing a black backpack, looked like Maura's, at the Piglet Overlook, about 30 miles east of the crash site. Law enforcement was apparently told about it, but we've never had confirmation if that backpack was ever found or tested.
So, another potential lead that just kind of hangs there.
Pretty much. Then, October 2006, a volunteer search with cadaver dogs.
And they got some hits.
Yeah, reportedly indicated human remains inside a house about a mile from the crash site, on the second floor and strongest in a downstairs closet.
And this house? It used to be owned by the brother of the guy who gave Fred the knife.
That's the one. During the search, they collected some trash bags, a carpet sample.
But the carpet sample got lost by a private investigator.
Reportedly, yes. And the police didn't seem hugely interested in following up at the time. They did excavate the basement in 2019, but found nothing.
Still, those cadaver dog hits. They're compelling, aren't they?
They are indeed. They suggest something might have been there at some point. The lack of official follow-up and the lost sample are just frustrating parts of the whole process for people wanting answers.
And just this past February 2024, the 20th anniversary, authorities released an age-progressed photo of Maura.
A clear sign the case is still open, still seeking tips.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the key theories and individuals who've come under scrutiny over the years.
Right. Over 2 decades, a lot of theories, a lot of potential suspects have popped up, each with different levels of evidence or just circumstantial suspicion.
One name that comes up is Scott Wall.
Yeah, in 2012, the FBI seized his computers, part of an investigation into child sexual material, or CSM.
And he was involved in the Maura Murray case online.
Deeply involved. Visited the crash site, interacted with the family. Forensic analysis apparently linked his computer to viewing both CSM and photos of Maura.
And a laptop seized later was missing its hard drive.
Correct. He was indicted on CSM charges, but those were later dropped.
But then he got more involved with the Murray family, even helped run their Facebook page.
For a time, yes. Until the online community raised concerns and he was removed, his involvement is, well, it's complex and has some unsettling parts.
Definitely. Even with charges dropped, the intense interest, the photo link, the missing hard drive, it all makes you wonder.
It does. Then there's Moore's boyfriend, Billy Roosh.
What are the points of interest there?
Reports of missing pages from their phone bills around the time she disappeared. Maybe showing roaming calls in New Hampshire?
And his call patterns.
He called her phone and door room several times in the days before. On the 9th, he called her mobile 8 times before finding out she was missing.
Okay. And after he found out?
There was about a 2-hour gap where he didn't call her cell again. Instead, he called a friend's dorm room, asking about hotels in New Hampshire.
Interesting. And later that day, a 3-4 minute roaming call was made to Moore's phone.
Right. Plus, in the years after, multiple women accused him of assault and harassment.
Including that really disturbing alleged comment.
"I'm gonna kill you like I killed Maura," which she claimed was a joke.
A terrible joke if it was one, but crucially, his alibi.
He's always maintained he was in Oklahoma at the time, which is obviously a major factor for investigators.
Right. The call patterns, the gap, the later accusations, they raise questions. But the alibi is significant.
Very significant. Okay, who else? Rick Forcier.
The guy with the delayed sighting report.
Exactly. He's also drawn suspicion. His conflicting accounts, the big delay in reporting, some comments he apparently made that people found insensitive.
Also, a suspicious vehicle change around that time. Refusing a property search.
Yeah, and even uploading a song called Stalker online. It all contributes to suspicion around him.
Again, lots of circumstances that make you look closer, but maybe not concrete proof.
Exactly. Suspicion isn't proof, but the collection of things definitely warrants scrutiny.
Okay, another theory revolves around red truck.
Right. A local woman named Aro reported seeing a suspicious red truck, mass plates, wooden bed, near the Swiftwater stage shop, close to the crash site.
This was around 7:00 p.m. on the night Maura disappeared, just before police arrived.
That's the report. And the driver of this truck has never come forward.
What's the significance of that?
Well, it puts an unidentified vehicle right there, right around the crucial time. If Maura did get a ride from a stranger,
This red truck could be it.
it's a definite possibility. The fact the driver never came forward is noteworthy. Adds another layer of mystery for sure.
Okay, and finally, there's a really disturbing theory involving a local man, often referred to as Claude's brother, and Claude himself.
Yeah, this one is particularly concerning and complex.
Claude's brother is the one who gave Fred Murray the rusty knife, claiming Claude used it.
Right. And while Claude denied being in town that night, his ex-girlfriend apparently contradicted him.
And Claude worked at a car-crushing factory.
Yes. And his own niece made some serious allegations that he was violent, maybe offered Maura a ride, killed her, and disposed of her body at the factory.
She even found a disturbing journal entry, and there were alleged links to another missing woman.
That's all part of the information that's come out. Plus, his ex-wife supposedly gave a tip to investigators.
And there are other details, too. A blurry photo of maybe a red truck he drove. Unrecorded concrete structures on his property.
The carpet in his old house being removed right after Maura vanished the same house where the dogs hit later. A luminol reaction in that closet?
Luminol detects blood traces, right?
Eastman?
Even if cleaned.
Correct. Also, animal bones found in his fireplace, a buried backpack found on the property but then discarded before examination. It's a lot of very disturbing stuff.
It really is. The knife, the conflicting alibi, the niece's story, the dog hits, the luminol, it paints a very troubling picture.
And the reported delay in searching his property thoroughly, as the source highlighted, could have given time for evidence to be removed or destroyed. It's a theory carrying significant weight for many.
Which leads us right into the YouTube creator's own kind of overarching theory.
Which is?
Basically, that Maura was likely a random target, a local person just passing by the crash scene.
So the theory suggests Maura maybe panicked after her second crash in 2 days, probably had been drinking. She desperately seeks a ride.
Maybe from the red truck driver.
Yeah.
And that person just took advantage of her being vulnerable.
The dog losing the scent just 100 yards east really supports that idea of her getting into a vehicle quickly.
The creator also noted Maura had apparently talked about hitchhiking before, and highlights Claude as a strong possibility given the truck connection, living nearby, and the delayed property search.
And that retired investigator's quote really sums it up. She got into the wrong car, she went to the wrong house. That encapsulates this line of thinking perfectly.
It does. It aligns with key pieces.
Yeah.
The scent trail ending, the mystery truck, the potential vulnerability leading her to accept a ride from the wrong person.
And focusing on a local perpetrator could explain why there were no confirmed sightings of her far away from there. The details around Claude, as we discussed, certainly fit that framework if you lean towards that theory.
It truly is just such an intricate and deeply troubling case, isn't it? So many threads, so many basic questions still unanswered.
Absolutely. Over this deep dive, we've really walked through the timeline, the key witness statements, the different theories from the sources. It gives a comprehensive overview, but it's still incomplete, isn't it?
Yeah, very incomplete. And as you've heard, there's just so much circumstantial evidence pointing different ways, leads to so many interpretations of what might have happened.
It really highlights the challenge, trying to piece together a solid story when actual proof is just missing.
This case is such a stark reminder of how tough it is relying on memory, on interpretation, in investigations. Every piece of info we talked about has been filtered through someone's perspective, and those perspectives can differ so much.
They really can.
So for you, our listener, as you've taken all this and the few hard facts, the many conflicting stories, the different scenarios, what single piece of information, if we actually discovered it, do you think would finally unlock the truth? What would solve this haunting mystery?
It's a question that just keeps echoing, doesn't it? Makes us think about the human side of these perplexing, enduring cases.